Hi, I'm Anna, and today I'm going to show you how you can very easily make an octopus like this one with just one pair of socks. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any upcoming tutorials. You'll need the following supplies. Head on over to funsockcity.com for all your sock needs, including the ones you'll need for this project. Take one sock and cut it off right before you get to the heel. Set this portion aside and save it for later. Now you're going to stuff this part to create the head. Stuff it really full at this top portion especially, and continue to stuff until you get almost all the way full. Once you have it to your desired fullness, we're going to sew this portion closed. I'm using embroidery floss that matches well with my sock. When you're sewing with socks, you always want to remember to lock in your thread, and you do that by inserting it into the sock and then coming right back in next to that, pulling it most of the way to the knot, but right before you get the knot to the sock, you're going to put the needle between the threads, so that way it won't pull through the fibers of the sock. And then you'll just go back and forth. You go opposite side to opposite side and then go perpendicular to that and do the same thing. Side to side. And then you go to all these little empty spaces and do that over and over. And then when you feel like you've gotten it sufficiently closed up, you'll just knot that off. Go ahead and set this aside while you're working on the other parts. Go ahead and turn the remaining sock piece and the remaining sock wrong side out. And we're going to cut this one off again at about the same spot that we did the other one and save that portion. Now this part of the sock we're actually going to use to create 8 tentacles. Find a marking utensil that's going to show on your socks, and a ruler will come in really handy for this part. You want to split these about evenly down the middle and just draw a line and then split that in half again. And you have to kind of pay attention to how this curves down here. So I'm going to end up kind of curving my line at that point. That again on this side, and then you'll repeat the same process on this sock. Alright, you can faintly see my lines on here, and what you're going to do is you're going to sew on the edge of each line. Don't sew on the line, just sew next to it on each side, right here and then down here. And then you're going to cut on that line. It's really important that you leave enough space between the 2 seams that straddle this line, because you want to be able to cut it without cutting through your sewing lines. It doesn't have to be a huge space, but it needs to be big enough that you can cut safely through that. And then you'll do that on each line here. You don't need to sew this edge or this edge on either sock. Go ahead and sew as I just showed you. You can use a sewing machine or you can do it by hand. I'll be using my sewing machine. I've got all my lines sewn and they're really hard to see, but I'm going to cut right between them, being very careful not to cross over a seam. Now before turning these right side out, go ahead and sew the very tips on one side shut. Just sew across right here and making sure to leave the other side open. Then go ahead and turn them right side out. It works well if you can just get it kind of started, get that end pushed in, and then using your finger or something else small, go ahead and push it through. Grab that and then you can turn it right side out like that. And repeat that on all of them. Then if you'd like, you can stuff each leg just a little bit with some polyfill. This is totally optional. Because they're so narrow, you could probably get away without stuffing them. I just want them to have a little bit of firmness and not be 100% floppy. So I'm not stuffing mine really, really full. I'm just giving them a little something to be in there versus just absolutely nothing. See the difference? Really floppy without stuffing, and then still some movement, but not so floppy. Then close each of the tentacles up in the exact same way you close the head up. As always, you'll lock it into place. Now take your octopus head, and on the underneath side, we're going to sew these into place. First though, I'm just going to pin them, and I'm actually going to tack them into place all the way to about this edge right here. Not just in the center, but all the way out to there about. And I'm pinning them all so that this part is on the outside. If there's a distinct difference between one side or the other, make sure that you pin it purposefully. So I guess if you wanted to do it opposite, you could, but I prefer to have them all looking similar to each other. So I'm going to sew first these 4 into place, and then I'll put the other 4 between it and sew those. Always lock your thread into place. Now I'm going to attach these together right here, as well as all along this bottom seam right there, and then out a little ways again on this one. And you'll do that for each of them. And then when you're all done, just tie it off. And then you can push the needle in at that spot and push it out just a little bit of ways, pull it tight, snip it off, and the thread goes right back into the stuffy. After you have these 4 sewn into place, you're going to sew the next 4 in between each of those in the exact same way, attaching them to the adjoining ones right there, like that are next to it, as well as on the underneath side and out just a little bit. Now take your remaining sock that you set aside, and then I'm going to cut just as big of a circle as I can right in this section here, going on both sides because I want to get 2 equal circles. Taking some thread on one of the edges of the sock on the inside, you're going to lock it into place, and then you're just going to weave in and out, and it can be pretty large weaves, it doesn't have to be really close, all around the edges of this circle. And we're just going to create a little pouch. Now don't pull it all the way closed, but rather get some stuffing and stuff that into the middle of that. I'm going to stuff mine rather full, and then you can pull that tight, creating a little ball. And then you'll sew it shut much like we did the other things, going opposite sides to opposite sides. And then when you're satisfied with that, you can go ahead and tie it off. And then you'll do the exact same thing with this other piece. Then take your eyeballs and just some coordinating felt. I'm going to do white on this and then this blue on top of the white. So this white circle is going to be slightly bigger than the blue circle. And I'm just going to eyeball about how big I want it. To make it go faster, you can just fold your felt so that you're cutting 2 circles at a time. Then make a circle that's slightly smaller than that with your alternate color. And do the same thing by folding that felt. Now get your hot glue gun ready so that you can glue these onto the balls you made. Then I'm going to start by putting the white felt on there. I'm going to put it just on the very front of the eye and press that into place, and then do the other one also. And then decide where you want to place your eyes. You can decide if you want it cross-eyed or just kind of looking a certain direction. I'm going to have mine looking off to its left. Let everything cool on the eyes, and then you're going to decide where you're going to place your eyes. You can place them down really low, but I want to be able to add a smile, so I'm actually going to bring mine to about the halfway point. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the thread and lock that into place, and make sure you have it on there the way that you want the eyes to be sitting. And then I'm going to push it in, and I'm actually going to push it right out where the other eye is going to be. And pull that side tight. Put the needle in through there. And then you're going to insert it right back in by where the needle came out. And then push it again over to this other side. And then you can kind of pull them in a little bit to create a snug, oh gosh. Make sure things don't get twisted around. Pull them in to your desired tightness. Once you have everything positioned the way you want it, go ahead and sew up and down, connect the eye to the body. And you're just going to weave back and forth. And this is just going to help hold the eye into its proper place so it doesn't twist around. And then once you've gone all the way around, you're going to just knot it off and push the needle in right underneath the eye, and then push it out away from there, and you'll pull that tight, press down and cut that, and then it just gets sucked right back into the body. Now you're going to sew this eye into place, going all the way around again. Now decide what color you want to use for your mouth. I'm using 3 strands of embroidery floss, but then I have a loop through the needle and back around on itself, so it makes it 6 strands thick. And you'll want to draw your smile on there. I find it's a lot easier to draw it on and then sew over. And with my smiles, I like to leave the little knot kind of showing at the edge of each smile. So you'll push a needle in and bring it out just about 1 centimeter away down that line. And as always, you'll lock it into place by going between those 2 loops before you pull it tight. And you want to make sure that you have that knot up at the peak of the smile. Then you'll insert again, this time below, on that line still, but below where that last thread was. Come out, and then insert it back in right up there by that thread. And you'll just do that over and over along your line that you marked for your smile. And then when you get to this end, you're just going to tie it off to create a similar knot as what was at the beginning. And you can just cut it off right near the knot. Be sure to check out the free pattern in the description down below, where we break it down step by step, plus with some visuals. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!